0530 hours Luhansk front, contested border region. A thick, impenetrable fog clings to the valley floor, obscuring the horizon in a wash of gray. The air is heavy with freezing moisture, biting into exposed skin. Deep, waterlogged ruts of black mud dominate the landscape, the remnants of a road long since destroyed by war. There is no wind. The silence is absolute, save for the rhythmic dripping of condensation from the skeletal remains of burnt trees. From the west, a low vibration begins to shake the ground. It starts as a tremor in the puddles rippling the dark water. Then comes the noise. A guttural mechanical roar tears through the morning calm. 8 massive shapes emerge from the mist. They are French infantry fighting vehicles, moving in a tight tactical column. Their steel tracks slap violently against the wet earth, flinging heavy clods of clay high into the air. The lead vehicle hits a submerged crater. The 30-ton hull slams down, bottoming out the suspension with a metallic crunch. The engine screams as the driver forces the machine forward, churning the mud into a thick paste. Exhaust plumes jet black smoke into the fog, mixing with the sharp scent of unburnt diesel and wet rot. The angular turret traverses slowly from left to right, its autocannon scanning the empty tree line for threats. High above the cloud layer, the sky is a pristine blue. A British reconnaissance drone orbits in a wide, silent circle. Its camera lens rotates, zooming in on the thermal signatures below. The fog offers no protection against the infrared sensor. On a screen miles away, the French column glows white-hot against the cold, dead background of the terrain. The image is crisp. The drone operator tracks the convoy's speed. A red digital box snaps around the lead vehicle. It pulses once, twice. The laser designator activates, painting an invisible beam onto the roof of the unsuspecting armor. On the ground, the French column accelerates as it reaches a patch of broken pavement. The tracks bite into the asphalt, sparks flying as steel grinds against stone. The noise becomes deafening. Inside the third vehicle, the commander cracks his hatch. He pushes his upper body into the freezing air to get a visual. He wipes moisture from his goggles and scans the ridge. Nothing moves, the world seems empty. He drops back inside, pulling the heavy steel hatch shut. The lock spins with a definitive clank. Inside, soldiers sit knee to knee in the cramped troop compartment, swaying in unison as the vehicle lurches over the uneven ground. Weapons rattle against armor plate. Data streams through the encrypted network. The drone transmits the grid coordinates instantly. 10 miles to the east, a radio crackles in a concealed dugout. Fire mission, battery adjust. The lethargy of the early morning vanishes. British artillery crews bolt from their camouflage nets. Boots pound against the frozen earth. They rush toward the looming shapes of the 155mm self-propelled guns. The massive barrels are currently lowered, covered in frost. An officer shouts commands over the roar of the generators. Men climb onto the hulls, their breath visible in short, sharp bursts. The hydraulic systems of the British guns whine to life. The massive turrets begin to rotate. The long barrels elevate, pointing toward the gray sky. The hunt has begun. The target is locked. The trap is set. 0535 hours, UK artillery position, 10 miles east of the kill zone. The battery lies hidden deep within a dense pine forest. Heavy camouflage netting drapes over the massive steel hulls of the self-propelled guns, breaking up their silhouettes against the tree line. The air smells of damp pine needles, diesel exhaust, and cold hydraulic fluid. Generators hum with a low, steady thrum, powering the turret systems. Inside the armored cabs, red tactical lights bathe the cramped interiors in a harsh crimson glow. The Fire Direction Center transmits the final data package. A digital screen inside the lead gun flickers. Coordinates scroll rapidly across the display. Elevation, azimuth, charge weight. The section commander screams the order over the intercom. The crew moves with practiced violent speed. A loader grabs the heavy 155mm high-explosive projectile. His muscles strain as he heaves the 90-pound shell onto the automatic loading tray. The mechanism engages. It punches the shell forward into the breech with a loud metallic thud. The steel rings. The driving band bites into the rifling. The loader grabs 2 white propellant charge bags. He shoves them deep into the chamber behind the shell. He yanks his arm back instantly. The heavy breech block slides upward. It slams shut, sealing the chamber airtight. The hydraulic whine increases in pitch as the massive barrel adjusts. It jerks upward, locking into its final firing elevation. The entire 50-ton vehicle rocks slightly on its suspension as the gun stabilizes. The turret traverses 3 degrees right. The gears grind and lock into place. "Gun ready!" the loader yells. His voice fights over the roar of the engine. The gunner grips the firing handle. His knuckles turn white against the black plastic. He watches the status light on his console flick from red to green. The targeting computer confirms the ballistic solution. The long barrel points high, aimed at a patch of gray, empty sky. The forest around them remains still, unaware of the pressure building inside the steel tube. The battery commander watches the digital countdown on his tablet. 3 seconds. 2. He chops his hand down. 0536 hours, the firing line. The forest holds its breath. A single drop of condensation falls from a pine branch, hitting the frozen mud. The commander's hand completes its downward arc. The firing circuit closes. The number 1 gun erupts. A blinding sphere of orange flame expands instantaneously from the muzzle brake. It scorches the surrounding air, vaporizing the moisture in a 10-foot radius. The sound is not a noise, it is a physical blow. The shockwave slams into the earth, kicking up a wall of dust, dead leaves, and loose snow. The 50-ton steel chassis bucks backward violently. The suspension groans under the immense stress. The recoil pistons scream as they absorb the kinetic energy, sliding the barrel back into the housing. The second gun fires, then the third. The ripple fire tears the morning silence into shreds. The ground shakes rhythmically, vibrating through the boots of the crews outside. Trees sway as if hit by a gale-force wind. Pine needles rain down from the canopy, shaken loose by the overpressure. The clearing fills with thick, acrid white smoke. The sharp metallic taste of burning cordite floods the air. Inside the turret, the breech block slams open automatically. A plume of gray smoke vents into the cab. The empty brass primer casing clatters onto the metal floor. The autoloader whirs, demanding more steel. The crew moves in a blur of motion. They do not speak. They grab the next 90-pound projectile. They ram it home. High above the tree line, the shells puncture the cloud layer. They ascend at supersonic speeds, invisible to the naked eye. They arc through the stratosphere, spinning at thousands of revolutions per minute. They reach the apex of their trajectory miles above the Earth. Gravity takes hold. The nose cones tip downward. The 4 shells align with the grid coordinates. They begin their terminal descent. They are no longer artillery rounds. They are falling meteors of forged steel and high explosives. 0537 hours, the kill zone. The French convoy maintains its steady pace along the rutted track. The diesel engines grind in a monotonous rhythm. Mud flies from the spinning tracks. The lead vehicle commander scans the horizon, his gloved hands resting on the hatch rim. The fog begins to thin slightly, revealing the scarred earth ahead. The world remains quiet, save for the mechanical noise of the drivetrains. Then, the sky tears open. A terrifying, high-pitched shriek descends from the clouds. It sounds like tearing canvas magnified 1,000 times. The noise arrives only a split second before the steel. The first 155mm shell slams into the road, 10 meters in front of the lead infantry fighting vehicle. The ground detonates. A massive geyser of black earth, rock, and fire erupts upward. The shockwave hits the lead vehicle like a sledgehammer. The 30-ton machine stops dead, violently arresting its forward momentum. The rear tracks lift off the ground. The hull slams back down, bouncing on its suspension. Thick, heavy smoke engulfs the front of the column. Dirt rains down on the metal roofs like hail. The commander of the lead vehicle ducks inside instantly, pulling the hatch down as shrapnel pings off the armor plate. The jagged metal shards strip the external sensors and shatter the glass vision blocks. The second shell lands. It strikes the soft shoulder to the right of the third vehicle. The explosion gouges a crater the size of a car. The blast wave punches the side of the IFV, shoving it sideways. The tracks skid over the wet mud. The vehicle tilts dangerously, nearly sliding into the ditch. Chaos erupts along the line. Brake lights flare red through the smoke and dust. Drivers slam on their brakes. The heavy vehicles slew sideways, fishtailing in the slick mud. The organized column disintegrates into a confused cluster of metal. A third shell screams in. It strikes a tree directly above the rear guard. The tree disintegrates. Wood splinters turn into deadly missiles, driving into the engine deck of the last vehicle. The convoy is bracketed. The road ahead is blocked. The road behind is under fire. 0538 hours, the ambush site. The convoy dissolves into mechanical anarchy. Engines scream as drivers stomp on accelerators to redline. Black diesel smoke thickens the fog, reducing visibility to 0. The lead vehicle attempts a violent reverse. Its tracks spin uselessly in the cratered mud, churning the clay into a slick paste. It slides sideways. The 30-ton hull crunches into the front of the second IFV. Steel buckles. Headlights shatter. The impact jolts the crew inside, throwing them against the bulkheads. At the rear of the column, the 8th vehicle tries to break the line. The driver pivots the chassis hard left, aiming for the tree line. The tracks tear deep ruts in the soft shoulder. The air shrieks again, another volley arrives. A shell slams into the earth 3 meters behind the turning vehicle. The explosion lifts the rear of the IFV. Hot, jagged steel scythes through the suspension. The drive sprocket shatters. The heavy track snaps with a whip-crack noise louder than a gunshot. The metal links unspool onto the road like a dead snake. The vehicle lurches and dies, listing heavily into the mud. The road is sealed. The lead vehicle is stuck. The rear vehicle is crippled. The 6 vehicles in the middle are trapped in the bottleneck. They joust for position, engines roaring, turrets swinging wildly. They collide with each other, fenders scraping, mirrors snapping off. The formation is now a solid block of stationary armor. 0540 hours, center of the kill zone. The confusion in the bottleneck reaches a fever pitch. Drivers, blind by smoke, slam gears into reverse, then forward, rocking their machines in the deep mud. Steel fenders crunch against neighboring hulls. The air is thick with the scream of strained engines and the smell of burning clutches. The trapped French soldiers can hear the distinct, terrifying whistle of the next volley incoming. It is louder this time, closer. A single 155mm high-explosive round plunges vertically from the gray sky. It strikes the number 3 vehicle directly on the turret roof. There is no deflection. The fuse activates instantly upon contact with the thin top armor. The shell punches through the steel plate like a hammer through glass. It detonates deep inside the crew compartment. The result is catastrophic. The internal atmosphere ignites in a fraction of a second. The overpressure inside the sealed hull exceeds the structural limits of the steel welds. The 14-ton turret lifts straight up off the chassis ring. It rides a pillar of expanding fire, spinning lazily into the air. It reaches the height of the treetops before gravity reclaims it. The heavy mass crashes down into the mud 10 meters away, barrel buried deep in the earth. The hull of the destroyed IFV swells violently. The rear ramp blows off its hinges, cartwheeling across the road. A jet of raw flame torches out of the open turret ring, reaching 20 feet into the sky. It resembles a blast furnace. The ammunition storage inside catches fire. Secondary explosions ripple through the burning carcass. Wait. A shockwave ripples out, flattening the tall grass in the ditches. The neighboring vehicles shudder from the concussive force. Shrapnel from the destroyed hull sprays the side armor of the adjacent IFV, stripping away external storage boxes and snapping radio antennas. The heat is intense enough to blister paint on the vehicles 5 meters away. The center of the column is now a burning roadblock. 0542 hours, the kill box. The destruction on the ground is absolute. The burning hulk of the third vehicle casts a flickering orange light through the smoke. The remaining machines are motionless, trapped between the cratered road and the burning wreck. The air smells of roasted metal and chemicals. The tactics change. The unseen battery switches ammunition. The next salvo does not strike the mud. 50 feet above the road, the air snaps. 4 proximity fuses detect the ground. The shells detonate simultaneously in mid-air. Black smoke puffs bloom instantly against the gray sky. A cone of jagged steel fragments blasts downward at supersonic speed. It is a vertical wall of death. The heavy frontal armor of the IFVs is useless against a top-down attack. The shrapnel shreds the thin steel of the engine decks and turret roofs. It sounds like 1,000 hammers striking a tin roof at once. The 4th vehicle in the line takes the brunt of the wave. The radiator grille disintegrates. Hot metal slices through the fuel lines underneath. Diesel sprays onto the red-hot turbocharger. A fireball erupts from the engine compartment, engulfing the rear of the chassis. The 5th vehicle fares worse. A large fragment punches through the commander's hatch. Sparks shower into the turret basket. The ready racks of 25mm ammunition ignite. There is no explosion, just a sudden, blinding intensification of light. A jet of white-hot chemical fire torches through the vision blocks. The pressure blows the side doors open. Smoke pours out, thick and black. The vehicle becomes a kiln. 0545 hours, the impact zone. The distinct rhythm of individual explosions vanishes. It is replaced by a continuous, rolling roar that drowns out all other sound. The British battery has switched to rapid fire. A relentless curtain of steel descends upon the trapped convoy. The interval between impacts drops to seconds. The road ceases to exist. It is churned into a cratered moonscape of black mud and jagged rock. The barrage saturates the grid square. A shell strikes the ground directly beneath the nose of the 6th vehicle. The blast wave lifts the 20-ton front end into the air. The vehicle flips backward, crashing onto its roof. The suspension arms snap like dry twigs. The tracks hang limp, still spinning in the empty air. The hull is crushed into the mud by its own weight. To the rear, the 7th vehicle attempts to push the burning wreckage of the 8th off the road. It is a futile effort. A high-explosive round lands on the engine deck. The explosion drives the engine block down through the chassis floor. The vehicle shudders violently and stops. Fuel sprays onto the hot exhaust manifolds. A wall of fire sweeps over the hull, consuming the external kit bags and camouflage netting in a single breath. The destruction is total. Shrapnel hums through the air like angry hornets, shredding tires, optics, and antennas. The smoke is so thick it blocks out the sun, turning the morning into a choking twilight. The fires from the burning vehicles merge. A river of burning diesel flows into the ditches, setting the dead grass ablaze. The heat distorts the air, shimmering above the twisted scrap metal. The 2nd vehicle, trapped against the lead wreck, takes a direct hit to the side skirt. The armor plate shears off. The blast rips into the road wheels. The entire left side of the suspension disintegrates. The vehicle drops into the mud, crippled and burning. There is no movement from the hatches. The column is no longer a fighting force. It is a line of burning bonfires. 0600 hours. The aftermath. The last echo of the barrage dies out, swallowed by the vastness of the valley. The silence returns. It is heavier now, suffocating and absolute. The wind shifts, carrying the thick, oily smoke toward the tree line. The road is gone. In its place lies a scar of churned black earth, stretching 300 meters through the fog. 8 jagged, blackened shapes clutter the kill zone. They no longer resemble fighting vehicles. They are hollowed-out husks of scorched steel. The fires have mostly burned down to smoldering embers, glowing dull red in the gray morning light. The heat radiating from the wrecks distorts the air, creating shimmering waves that dance above the devastation. Water from a burst radiator drips onto a hot exhaust pipe, hissing rhythmically. Hiss, hiss, hiss. It is the only sound in the valley. The lead vehicle sits nose down in a crater, its rear hull torn open like a tin can. The metal edges are jagged and bright where the alloy sheared. The 3rd vehicle, the one hit by the direct impact, is unrecognizable. The chassis is a melted slag heap. The turret remains buried barrel first in the mud 10 yards away, a tombstone for the machine. Debris covers every inch of the surrounding field. Shredded rubber track pads, twisted rifles, and fragments of armor plate litter the wet grass. A helmet lies upside down in a puddle, the water inside black with soot. High above, the British reconnaissance drone maintains its orbit. The camera lens zooms in, pushing through the thinning smoke. The optics switch to high-resolution visual mode. The operator captures the battle damage assessment. Frame 1, the lead obstruction, destroyed. Frame 2, the center cluster, destroyed. Frame 3, the rear guard, destroyed. The digital crosshairs settle on the burning line of wreckage. The image stabilizes. The data transmits to the fire direction center. 10 miles away, the battery commander lowers his binoculars. The guns are already stowed. The diesel engines of the self-propelled guns rev up. The tracks churn the forest floor as the battery prepares to displace, moving to a new hide site before counter-battery radar can track their origin. The valley remains still. The fog begins to close back in, wrapping the iron graveyard in a cold white shroud.